All right, conversation 3. This is week number 7. And our topic today is the good and the bad. I actually did a double take when I saw this topic because I did a conversation 2 lecture on Monday, which was about good luck and bad luck, which is remarkably similar to this topic. But I hope you're not I hope there's not too many students that are taking both at the same time, but there will be some overlap probably when I talk about this. In general, though, the conversation 2 topic was about superstition, whereas this one is more about just things going badly or things going well. So one of the things I mentioned about what Americans say when they are doing well is it's originally a statement that was made, as far as I know, it was a statement made by Charlie Sheen in a sitcom, where he said he was winning, which he didn't mean in the actual, present continuous sense where he was in the middle of a game and his score was higher than somebody else's, and that's why he was saying winning. It was just he was declaring that everything in his life was going well. And so he said winning. No article or no context, just other than the fact that he was remarking on his talent for doing well in life, right? And people picked up on that. So, yeah, you can see people write this as a slogan or put it on a poster, or you can hear people say it all the time. That's at least 10 years ago that he used that expression in a drama, a comedy. And so people say winning all the time. If you've ever had one of those really bad days, we often refer to this as Murphy's Law, because Murphy's Law states that if something bad can happen, it will happen. There's another expression where we say you start off the day on the wrong foot. Start off on the wrong foot. Meaning in the past, I think the left foot, but it just means you sort of get out of bed and normally you put down a certain foot, right or left. We'll say right. You put down your right foot first and then the whole day goes well, but instead you accidentally put your left foot down, and that causes a string of bad things to happen, starting with that initial mistake. And that's where that idiom comes from, is to start off on the wrong foot. And so that just sets up a chain reaction where everything goes badly for you. So in the textbook, you have to answer a questionnaire, which is related to this topic. Again, like usual, every week I give you a topic. It's usually related to the chapter title. So fortunately for you, let me just, before I go on, mention that this week you do not have to hand in your assignment based on the topic. However, I encourage you to do a paragraph and prepare yourself, because on the exam, midterm is canceled, as you know, because of the update. I hope you watched that short, video update that I made, the mid-April update. But basically, we have no midterm. So I'm going to look over your first 6 assignments on different topics, and we're going to take a break from doing that, and I'm going to individually send you some feedback so you know how you're doing. But this week you just have to, absorb the video lecture, spend the time you're supposed to, and you don't have to do any homework, which you can appreciate. Normally we would have the midterm next week, so there would be no homework assignment anyway, but having done 6 in a row, I think you have the idea, and it's time to give you some feedback before we do any more things. So just so you know, just like the first 6 topics, this is the 7th one. It will be included on the exam, so don't ignore it just because there's no homework. So this is what it says. Have any of these bad things happened to you over the last week? Missed a train, bus, or plane, arrived late to work or school, lost some money, keys or cell phone, lost a wallet, lost your job, crashed, broke down or crashed, car, motorcycle, computer stopped working. That happened to me. My computer broke this week. Also, my webcam has some problems, and the reverse camera on my phone isn't working. So I'm just staring at, a camera lens right now, and I can't even see myself. It's really hard to adjust. But anyway, there's one for me. I forgot someone's birthday. If that's your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your husband or wife, watch out. Sometimes people don't care, but most people do. Bicycle was stolen. You got sick. That's not a funny joke these days because coronavirus is not something to mock in terms. Sometimes when you get sick, you just expect to recover, but the current situation is not something to be laughed at. I had an argument with a friend. My pet ran away. My boyfriend or girlfriend broke up with me. Now, that's 12 questions. It says at the bottom, 0 to 4. You've had an okay week. I disagree. I think 0 is a good week. 1 or 2 is okay, but anything above 2 of these things in 1 week is pretty horrible. They're being very generous here. Anyway, take the questionnaire for fun. 5 to 8, it's been a rough week. 9 to 12, you've had one of those weeks, which means we usually say one of those days where just everything goes wrong. So if you got 9 out of 12, I don't even think that's one of those weeks. I think that's a horrible week. That's my opinion. Personally, they're being pretty optimistic here, which is good. But if anywhere close to 10 of those things happened to me, it would probably be the worst week of my life. So I think they underestimated how bad those things are in the list. So anyway, it's a pretty easy topic to cover this week. Really, all I want you to do is think about an occasion in your life where you had either a really good day or a really bad day. It's up to you to choose which one you want to tell me about. The interview question I'll be asking you, tell me about a day where things went really well or really bad. And you will have to answer me in the interview in 2 minutes. Describe to me what happened. So, be descriptive and tell me about what happened during that day. It could be just one really bad thing that just ruins the whole thing and then sets in motion a whole bunch of things. They could be good or bad, but it sort of has a ripple effect to it. So I'll give you an example in a minute. Since they're pretty lenient here and they talk about rough, one of those weeks as well, you can talk about that. So my example is going to stretch it a little bit. You don't have to do one day because it's hard to have all of these bad things happen in one day. Usually students choose to talk about a really good week. But for whatever reason, for me, the bad stuff is easier to remember and easier to describe. And I've never actually told this story to any students before, so this will be you'll be the first group. So, and now it's on YouTube, so this is wonderful. But anyway, I'll tell you some bad things, a bad streak that happened. This is 10 years ago. It's 2000, going back to 2010. So it was my second semester. I was actually between my second semester. So this is what happened to me. I lost my wallet. Okay, so wait, that's not right. What happened first? Okay. See, this is why you prepare, because you get the details wrong if you don't think about it beforehand. So let me back up for a second. First of all, I did come to Korea and worked for several years, 2.5 years actually, before I got my job at the university. And so I was halfway through my 3rd year when I switched to the university in September. I thought that my visa, which was good for a year, was just going to be terminated and start again in September. However, that's not what happened. My visa from January continued for 4 more months, and then it expired in January 2010. So I had a visa starting in January 2009, and then it expired 1 year later. But I was under the impression that if I got a new contract with a new employer and a new sponsor, this makes sense to me. Or maybe it makes sense to you. That my old visa would be terminated and I would have a fresh one, so that it would be in sync with my contract. So visa start, job start. Old visa gone, old job gone. But that's not what happened. My visa kept going for 4 months, and then in December, at the end of December, it expired. After I had gotten 3 visas, so this is my 3rd year in Korea, and it expired. But I kept working, not knowing that it was continuing, not knowing that basically I was working illegally, not intentionally. I'm not trying to become a criminal or something, but in February, nobody told me. Immigration didn't come after me or anything. Nobody told me. I just happened to look at the back of my ARC card and realized that it was expired, and it was 6 weeks before. So I kind of freaked out, and I was basically almost crying because I had no idea if I was going to get kicked out of the country or lose my job or anything. And, one of the other professors was like, "Calm down, Jeremy, we'll handle it." And the secretaries were like, "We didn't know." And I was like, "How could you not know?" And I was freaking out. So, I was really upset. So I ran home to the dormitory, the old professor's dormitory that's gone now. It's about 10 minutes away. I ran home. And when I ran home, my wallet fell out. And I lost my wallet. And then, so then I had to go and get all my stuff replaced before I could get my visa taken care of, which was very complicated. I need my passport for that. And then I had a driver's license, so I got all my cards back and fixed my wallet, but then on the way to get my new driver's license, I lost my passport. That's not all in one day or 1 week. This is over like a couple months, but I lost my passport. And then in the spring, in the last day of exams, I tore my Achilles tendon 1 week before I needed to go pick up my new passport. So I was in the hospital with no passport, and my parents sent the birth certificate from Canada, and then I had to drive my birth certificate in person to the Canadian Embassy to get a new passport because I had no passport. And I was living in Korea with no passport. But I had a visa at that point. That was in June. And with a broken leg in a cast, I got a new car and I drove to Seoul. The day after I got out of the 4 days after, this is complicated. 4 days after I got out of the hospital, I drove to Seoul and applied for my new passport, and they sent it in the mail. And then, in about December of 2010, I had fully recovered, started playing soccer again and being able to run. But basically, for that whole year of 2010, I lost my wallet, I lost my passport, I overstayed my visa, and I broke my leg. 2010 was a pretty bad year. So, if you have something like that to tell me, and you can condense it into 2 weeks, 2 months. 2 weeks would be a horrible experience too. But if you can condense it into 2 minutes and then explain it to me, then you can handle any of these questions. Maybe you got a flat tire and you ran out of gas and you're stuck on the side of the road, or you're with your family and you're on a trip, or I've heard all sorts of interesting stories from people. Usually the ones that are bad are funnier, not funny in retrospect, funnier, but are more interesting. I had a friend, a Korean student, who told me they were in Fukuoka, and while they were staying in Japan, in Fukuoka, it was an earthquake, a quite serious one, and it knocked out all the electricity in the city. So she was on vacation, and so the power was out and everything, and for several days She was in a foreign country staying in a hotel, but hotel had no electricity, so they were like going out to buy food and like bringing their food back into the hotel, and they couldn't go anywhere, and like nothing was working. None of that, everything was down. Transportation was down, communication was down, and everything because of the earthquake. And that was her vacation. She was there for 4 days or something, and 2 of those days there was no electricity, and restaurants were closed, and everything was closed, and there was no television in the room, and no lights or air conditioning or anything. If you have a story to tell like that, then tell me that story. Of course, if you have a story about really good luck, where everything went well for you, and you just it was your birthday, and you got presents, and then you got some good news about getting into the university you wanted to, and I don't know, you fell in love with somebody the very next week or whatever. You can describe to me sort of like a hot streak, a string of good things that happened to you, or you can talk about a string of bad things. When I do the lecture summary, I'll just stick up Murphy's Law there and describe it for you, and do a little description of what a hot streak or winning means in an American context, because I think being able to listen to those expressions is probably beneficial to you. So that is the topic. The good and the bad. I should probably mention that as soon as I hear the good and the bad, I always think and the ugly, because there's a famous cowboy movie, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which is about 3 hours long. But if you can get through the really slow suspenseful parts, it's a quite enjoyable film if you can stand waiting 5 minutes for something to happen. Anyway, that's the topic for this week, and that's probably enough for today, since you don't have an assignment to work on. But that's the question I'm going to ask you, and we're all caught up, and you can expect an email from me giving you some feedback about what you've given me so far. Just be patient, because I've got to get through about 85 students over the next week, so it'll take a while. Okay? Thank you for listening, and have a good night. Talk to you next week.